Right. Good morning, Dave Thackeray. I'm your digital marketing handyman. And today, I want to talk to you about something very, very important. It's how to do digital marketing. A lot of people don't get it. A lot of people don't know where to start. A lot of people just hold their hands up and go, I don't know, and dig their heads into the sand and then put their fingers in their ears, which is quite difficult when you've got to poke through the sand, and wait until the next big revolution comes along. Well, to those last subset of people, I say this: there ain't going to be another revolution like the digital revolution, so you might as well jump on the bus and make it work for you. And it's very easy, and that's why I'm here. I want to explain to you exactly how to do it very quickly. I have a show called Dave's Digital Delights over at Spreaker.com. You can check out that for an elongated version, something that you can put in your ears and enjoy at leisure, maybe when you're on the treadmill or cooking or grooming the dog. It might be something you enjoy doing. So let's get started. I'm going to do this calendrically or chronologically. I don't know whether either of those is actually a word, so bear with me. But what we're going to do is build a house of content by time, I guess, by frequency. Frequency works here. And the first thing you need to understand about digital marketing is it's incredibly easy. So put your fear coat away and let's rock it out, because I think you're going to get an awful lot out of this, and anybody can do it from 2 to 22 to 222. I believe there are a few 222-year-olds living on the south coast of England, probably in Hastings. So the first thing you need to do is daily. And daily, I'm talking about Twitter updates and Facebook status updates. And that sounds really, really straightforward. I don't want to teach Granny to suck eggs here, because it is obvious, but you might not be doing it already, and you need to understand the kind of stuff that you want to share on Twitter and Facebook. Now, Twitter is more about putting out value that people can act upon or be inspired by straight away. The conversation is there, the retweet is very popular, but Twitter really works better as a way of announcing stuff that you found or that you are working on that has value, that is relevant to your audience, your prospective audience. There are many, many different ways of finding the right people to talk to directly, of following and being followed by. But I'm talking specifically today about how to actually put these things together. And it will all become clear very, very soon as to how efficient this is going to be. So Twitter is all about letting people know. Facebook is really about starting a conversation and creating a focus group, I guess the best way of putting it, where you can find out what people think about stuff that you want to share with them. So two very, very different methods there of announcing things daily. And you can get stuff on Twitter or Facebook that has been curated from Google Alerts or from RSS feeds that you might follow. That's basically the feeds of river of news from blogs that you follow or news sites that you follow, like BBC or CNN. Not there's anything much worth looking at on there. All right, so that's Twitter and Facebook sorted. Now we need to address the thrice weekly blog. So a blog is your home base, and use WordPress.org. Definitely recommend that, and that will give you a download that you can put onto your web space and create your own blog. Fundamentally, giving away the farm here, but that's all right. Not giving away the farm CDs of the farm, because I haven't got any, and if I did, I certainly wouldn't be giving them away. They're an epic band. Thrice weekly blog can either be something like Tumblr as well. If you don't want to install or don't want to get your own web space, Tumblr, tumblr.com, is a microblog, sits between Twitter and a fully fledged blog. Lets you post quotes, lets you post photos, all that sort of stuff. Just realised my microphone's in front of my mouth, and another mouth is really important, but you know, it's all right. You can see a bit of it. There you are. Like a strip tease for the mouth, I guess. Thrice weekly blog will be populated by stuff that you've already put out there on Twitter or Facebook, and it'll be stuff that you've looked back on from your Twitter and Facebook archives, and I share some really interesting ideas about how to use If This Then That and Evernote to effectively create a stream of your Twitter feeds, tweets. I could have made that a hell of a lot more clear, couldn't I? That you can go back on them, and that will inspire your blog post. So quickly, we're starting to understand now that, you know, there are ways here of actually taking the initial daily content and actually letting it flow down, cascade down into other different types of content that you might want to produce. So We started off with the tweets and the Facebook updates. We're now talking about the thrice weekly blog, and this again can be content that you create based on stuff that's happening in your business, in your industry, with your suppliers, to your customers. So it's really the latest news that is relevant and important, and it can circle around an event, or it can be very, very specific to a certain thing that has just happened to you that you want to share your learnings with other people so that they can benefit from it ultimately. But you know, blogs are a bit the same as Twitter and Facebook in that you can create the content completely fresh. It can be absolutely original. You can curate content, so give people a digest of all the stuff that people are talking about out there that will be of benefit to your customers, to your sphere of influence in your industry sector. Or it can be aggregated content, so it can be a mesh of the content that you get from other people with your unique spin on it to make it, again, very, very original. So something to think about there for your blogs. So we've covered the blogs and the tweets and the Facebooks. Now we get to the latest hero du jour, which is video. So I'm thinking that you should probably put together a weekly video at this point, and the weekly video will be fed by what you've created on your blog and also what you've put out there on Twitter and Facebook. So very, very quickly, again, you're starting to see how actually with the very, very first effort, which is Twitter or Facebook, you're actually starting a waterfall, a pyramid of content that you can quickly share out to other people. And it doesn't take you an awful lot of time, but it gets you a huge amount of value. So the video there is solidifying a point that you have learned. I think videos work best like this one when you actually offer practical advice, valuable insight, stuff that people can act upon. I think that's where videos really come into their fore, and it's great if you can splash screenshots in there as well, stuff that means that people don't necessarily just have to look at you. I can imagine looking at me for more than about 10 minutes would actually cause your eyes to explode, or at least your retinas to unfreeze and disappear into a mess of nothing. I've been reading Terry Pratchett today. It's clearly got to my head. So we've talked about the weekly video. Let's just also think about a weekly hangout, because Google Plus offers Google Plus Hangouts absolutely free to you, and it's an opportunity to host focus groups with your customers. Let's look at it that way. I mean, that's the basic, the most raw way that you can use Google Plus. Or you can show off stuff that people couldn't get anywhere else. If you're an academic, you could talk about the latest research paper and have other people join you on the Hangout from across the world of academia to discuss this. And don't forget, now Hangouts now gives you Hangouts on air where people can watch your stuff on YouTube as it happens, and there's a chat box there where people can type in comments and you can actually react if somebody's in there already to actually give you what your viewers are saying, and it can actually spark new ideas or new perspectives in the debate as your Google Plus Hangout is taking place. Very, very powerful emerging technology, not fully formed yet, but you know, it's something great to think about. All of this stuff, of course, has a reason. You've created new perspectives using your Google Plus Hangout, and that will give you new mind food to share again. So it's a it's a constant circle. It's a perpetual circle. It's never ending, but in a good way, because it just keeps influencing your business and helps you grow, as well as influences your customers and asserts to them that you are the expert, the influencer in this realm, in your niche. So as well as the Hangout and the video and the blog and the tweets and the Facebook, we need to start talking about the newsletter, because this is something that you can get over to your customers that is really intimate to them, that is creating almost like a one-to-one relationship, and you need to write it like that. I'm a big fan of the plain text newsletter. I think it works better than anything else because people can read it whether they're on a mobile device, if they're looking at their desktop machine, if they're on the move and they're reading it on their phone or tablet. It doesn't matter. It's universal. It works on any platform, and that's why I like plain text, because in plain text you've got links. People can link out and look at stuff at their leisure, but they're not foisted upon themselves with images. My biggest bête noire is the image fueled newsletter where you have to click at the top of your Gmail and say display images here, all that stuff. I hate that. Really gets my goat. It's like popovers, but even worse. So don't do that. Simple newsletters based on the content that you've already put out. If you've used a Hangout from there, definitely on your video, on your blog, from your tweets and Facebook. It's your own curation of the content that you've already put out. perhaps with a unique spin that is exclusive to those subscribers. Or alternatively, it could just be your perspective, because we talked about the one-to-one relationship. It's really important that you do generate that relationship. So maybe you give something totally unique. Chris Brogan at chrisbrogan.com does this very well. If you want to go over and check out his newsletter, he really manages to inspire, educate, and entertain his audience through his, perceptibly newsletters that feel like you're having that conversation with him, and it's unique to you, but obviously it's not. It's thousands of people. We've got your fortnightly newsletter. We talked about the weekly hangouts and the weekly videos and the thrice weekly blogs and the daily tweets and the daily Facebook updates. And now we're going to move on to a monthly radio show. Now, I just started Dave's Digital Delights again. I've been a podcaster for a long time, ambassador to the European Podcast Award, indeed. So, I've got a bit of experience in that, but I'm always learning and always evolving. And I think the Rough and the Ready podcast works best because we're not Radio 1, thank the Lord. I wouldn't want you to be Radio 1. In fact, I think it's probably the worst thing you could do, although Radio 2 is much better. Big up to A. Chris Evans on Twitter. Quite like him, apart from his ginger hair. Or white now. So the monthly radio is a way of taking everything that you've already covered, but making it even more personal. I think when you create a podcast, and you're creating that real essence of theatre of the mind, you're giving people something really, really exciting to think about. And you're in their ears, you're in their mind, you're in their consciousness. There's something so special about having your own radio show that makes it super easy to get your message across, because it's not salesy, but at the same time, it's really you, and it's the truth, it's the honesty, it's the relevancy, it's the accuracy, it's the openness, and this is all coming out, and you're talking to people face to face almost, or it's like mouth to ear, I guess would be the best way of describing it in reality. So think about a radio show. I use Spreaker, Spreaker.com, a great way to get things moving because they give you a console. They allow you to broadcast live, which is obviously fantastic. If you've got an audience, there's a chat room in there, so there's a real interactivity. It's like Google Plus Hangouts, but you're on radio show with your jingles, and you can get, and there are applications out there as well for mobile, so people can listen to you on the move. It's a great way of getting out there. 2 more things to go, and we've cascaded now from tweets and Facebook through to your thrice weekly blog, to your weekly video interview, your weekly Google Plus Hangout, fortnightly newsletter, monthly radio show, and now we're going to move on to the quarterly presentation. I think this solidifies everything again, and we get into the deeper and deeper stuff, and we're not going to cover ebooks this time. I think you should try and get an ebook out roughly every half a year. But, let's get down to the basics, the achievable stuff. A presentation is just like your PowerPoint presentation. Very, very simple. Single image, single line of text, couple of words just to remind you, just to let people know what you're talking about, to really grab them and inspire them, give them a flavour of what you're all about. And that presentation can pick up on one thing that has really given you excitement over the past few weeks. In fact, if we look at a quarterly presentation, you've got 3 months to get the information together to put that presentation on SlideShare. And believe you me, I know that this works. I know you get a lot of eyeballs this way, and it's an authoritative, professional, very formal way of doing business and showing people that you know what you're talking about, establishing yourself as that authority. And the last thing I want to talk to you about is the half-yearly press release. Now, it doesn't have to be anything earth-shattering as far as, the fact that your business has just taken on 500 new staff. But it has to be relevant to your customers, and more importantly, it has to pique the interest of the media. And there are great distribution services such as PR Newswire that will let you do this with no effort whatsoever. It costs a little bit if you want to test the water. prfire.co.uk does the job, but if you want to do it with impact, I would recommend PR Newswire. And this is just a way of writing stuff that it only takes maybe 5 paragraphs, for goodness sake, but something that is relevant. You've got half a year to make this stuff, and imagine yourself sat on page 3 or page 5 of a newspaper, something that your business or your organization has done. What's that going to be? And put it into language that journalists would write in, would love, that gives them the least amount of work to convert it into newspaper speak or news site speak, because the least work they've got to do, the more chance you've got getting some really good space on their news outlet. So that's basically how to do digital marketing in a nutshell from me, Dave Thackeray at davethackray.com, your digital handyman. But in summary, it's daily tweets and Facebook updates, thrice weekly blogs, weekly video interviews, weekly 1-hour hangouts on Google Plus, if you can, I hope this is going to be relevant in a year's time and that Google Plus is still about, fingers crossed. Now, a fortnightly newsletter, a monthly radio show, well, you can start doing that more frequently if you start enjoying it a little bit too much, quarterly presentations, and a half-yearly press release. If you want a hand with any of this stuff, drop me a line. But I just hope that this gets you revved up and makes you realise that anybody can do digital marketing. So I wish you the very best of luck, and hopefully we will speak soon. This is Dave Thackeray at davethackray.com, at Dave Thackeray on Twitter, signing out, and have a great day.